he's so disgusting until he gets picked. Because at the end of the day, Ziggs is still open. And that is the highlight, premier, major bot lane mage that both of these teams do have the proficiency on, are ready to pull out of nowhere. And I mean, with the Kai'Sa already off the table, the Camille, as talked about, is the one that makes it happen. So AL saying, no, we have more than one option to go bot, even if you take away the Ziggs right now.
Yeah, I mean, the pick that the Camille was traditionally associated with is the Mel down there in the bottom lane. Ziggs also a great combination. Combining those two ultimates gets you some guaranteed big damage. Kael most likely piloting this Camille down in the bottom lane. Should be exciting to see from a player that really has been thrilling to watch, especially on some of these roaming supports. We think about Kael's Bard. This Camille is going to take that to another level.
Okay, we get the Syndra, presumably for Gala. We'll have to see if it does end up becoming a flex later on, but it's one of those answers into the Camille where at least pre-6, before that Hextech ultimatum is on the table, Syndra can just say, you are not jumping at me. And that is enough to get you through the most dangerous part of the lane phase, because if this Camille gets onto you with the Hail of Blades, it's lights out. It's lights out for like 90% of the bot lane champions.
And a Shen at the support position. Could go towards Xiaoxu as well, but maybe not expecting that to come through blind. It's a great matchup into the Camille. You can cancel out a lot of that damage by using your Spirit's Refuge. So potentially a bot lane set up for JDG in the first rotation. We're going to get that Ziggs instead of the Mel here for Hope, with Tarzan locking in the Neferi as well.
Wow, I really like that for the damage distribution and just in general. Neferi is one of those champions that both of these junglers have had really disgusting games on, especially against each other. And so I think that it's really going to be important for this time to set up that bot lane for success, because one of the main reasons that this meta is so weird is supports basically get to level 3 and then leave lane. And they will just leave their mage on their own bot to get solo XP, which means that you're not missing out on those extra ability point levels, which is why mages typically were played mid for so long. And then the supports come back bot after about 8 minutes or so, when catch-up XP kicks in for them big styles, and they will just skyrocket from level 3 up to level 6 in no time. So that's the main abuse pattern that we're expecting to see with this Syndra Shen versus Ziggs Camille bot lane that we're expecting.
And Syndra historically, maybe more of that lane bully, but also now can scale very much into the late game as we enter the second phase of bans. You can see some mid lane targeting still by JDG. No lock, but it seems to me that they are expecting that Ziggs to go down in the bottom lane. No surprise there. On the other side, JunJia's Olaf getting taken away as well. Still waiting to see where exactly things are going to be landing. There's a lot of picks that could be flexible, but there's also an assumption that we have locked in the bot lanes and the jungles for both of these teams and are waiting for those solo laners.
Absolutely, and then it comes down to the fact that we have JDG with the last pick, which I think has become even more scary right now. Obviously, the first pick to try and guarantee something like that Camille is big, but having last pick means you get the agency to flex lanes around. If suddenly AL locks in 2 champions and you're like, actually, Syndra would handle that quite well mid, and we have a secondary option to throw bot. It gives you that option to kind of adapt to the completely weird meta that we find ourselves in a meaningful manner. And when you have somebody like Tabe behind you, that is the kind of person who will take advantage of being on that red side.
Another ban towards Xiaoxu, this one being the Vayne, as now JDG get an opportunity to probably lock in a top laner here, if I'd have to guess. You want to most likely keep that flexibility option with things like the Syndra. However, maybe you just lock your mid lane or bot lane in here, guarantee that you get a good matchup for one of the better top laners that we had in split number 2 of regular season in Xiaoxu. Gonna be the Gnar though, locked in. A lot of options that could go into that one, but it is something that Xiaoxu is very comfortable on.
Yeah, last split, it was actually Xiaoxu against Breathe when he was on IG that he debuted both his Tryndamere counterpick to Jace and his Tristana counterpick to Gnar. So I imagine if this doesn't necessarily go well for JDG, they're probably going to try and get him another big counterpick in Game 2. We'll have to see with the Ambessa being hovered. Very standard. Triple, completely disgusting dive champions. Honestly, AL, I could really see them just slamming this with lock right now, because you've got everything to dive in, If you wanted to pick something that has a bit more defensive capability, the Galio works quite nicely here for being that follow-up dive with them. Casio, that's okay for a different kind of philosophy of being ready for JDG to dive in, but it doesn't exactly follow your divers as much as I would personally like.
Gives you a little bit more damage for Shanks, and also a bit of that peel still available for throwing out the miasma to prevent somebody like Hope from getting dove by the likes of JunJia or Vampire. Waiting for that final pick of JDG to fully understand where that Syndra is going to be headed. Not a bad matchup into that Cassiopeia, and it looks like JDG are potentially leaning towards an actual AD carry selected down there for Gala. You see the hover of the Tristana, maybe a nod to the Gnar counter, but it will be the Jhin locked in here for JD to wrap up our Game 1 draft.
Okay, I'm very curious if we see Hope and Shanks swapping to send the Ziggs mid to have a better range profile against the Syndra, because we've seen plenty of Cassio bot and that's been doing incredible as well. So I'm very curious. This is a kind of the trap that you can fall into, where if you don't pick two champions that can flex between mid and bot, it gives the other team the agency to pick the matchup. So far, it doesn't look like we're seeing it. We're getting pretty close to that 20-second mark, so we will be getting the standard draft of what's on the screen. Where do you want to start with talking about it?
The bot lane obviously will be an interesting one. The Ziggs Camille always can be a bit of a threat in the early game, but then it really becomes powerful once, as you said, Kael hits level 3, should be able to impact some of these other lanes, potentially match up alongside Tarzan on the Nefiri, which is a champion that really can snowball into depths that are beyond any other champion in terms of the strength that level that she can get if an early kill, an early invade ends up going their way.
And one of the things that the Camille support is so good at doing is enabling a jungler with damage to get onto the enemy jungler or onto a laner. We've seen so many times that a Camille will just leave lane at level 3, run mid lane with the jungler, and just completely clown whoever's in there. So I'm going to be a little scared if I'm HongQ this game. You've got to play super respectful around those timers, because this is an explosive game waiting to happen.
Jungle support's going to be very important for both of these teams throughout this series, throughout this season, and certainly in this game. Debuting in split number 3, it's JD Gaming and AAL taken to the Rift here in Shenzhen. Gios go. Already have an early play here for AL with Kael, level 1, going for a hook shot onto HongQ in the mid lane, pops the ignite and forces the Syndra's flash. So Melvin, we wanted some bot lane shenanigans level 3. You're going to get him level 1.
I love that. It's a very solid adaptation. It just means that now Hope has to play surviving. I believe he's managed to pick up all 3 of those minions' XP, which is the main thing. As long as he keeps on parity of levels and gets that satchel charge, Hope will have the ability to just chuck it down and bump Vampire away when he goes for the engage, which is where most of this JDG bot lane's threat will come from, particularly in these early levels. So at the moment, definitely benefit to AL. We see both junglers starting on their red side. We do get JunJia going for a recall along with Tarzan. Probably going to pick up a longsword control ward and then skedaddle onto the opposite side of the map. Does mean that it is going to be AL once again with support roaming agency if Tarzan wants to do something with his Camille.
Yeah. Only problem is that they are going to be pushed in for the time being, because, of course, Kael sacrificed that level 1 to make a play towards HongQ in the mid lane. Has worked out well for Shanks, though. So we'll see the bot lane continue to play out just a little bit. As you say, both junglers picking up their long swords and going for their opposite sides of the blue quadrants. As looks like Tarzan's finishing up that right now. Maybe getting a little bit of assistance from Kael as they're starting off the roam game early. That's the thing about playing this Camille. You can burn the flash off of the Syndra, but then you got to punish it by returning to that original play. Looks like they could be looking towards doing that now.
But part of the reason that you don't want to do this until level 3 in an ideal situation is at that point you stop having reduced gains from missing out on XP. Right now we do have Kael just matching Vampire on the roam, leaving the air quote control mages of Jhin and Ziggs on their own. they should not really have much going on in the foreseeable future. Now it's all about watching the junglers and where their supports go to make a play. And there are 6 people immediately around the mid lane at 3 minutes. That is the world we live in right now. This is standard issue.
Perhaps the kind of gameplay that got the LPL on the map back in the day as well, right? Some of that aggressive early game skirmishing. Good to see a bit of a return to that style of play, as we now see Kael hunting out JunJia, who is maybe looking for an invade on that second spawn of the Raptors on the red side. Tarzan should be able to pick that up, and Kael will end up returning back to the mid lane. I think this is going to be a common trend that we see throughout today, Melvin. The bot laner is going to be on a bit of an island here today.
And it does add that extra emphasis on that jungle support communication.
Oh, they don't know that Kael was here. Miasma comes down to the HongQ. He doesn't have his flash anyway, and Shanks is hunting him down with the Twin Fangs. One more would have been able to kill him, and he's burning down. He will not be able to be killed. HongQ able to barely escape. Actually going to reappear in the mid lane. But Vampire doing a good job body blocking to make sure that Kael cannot go forward again.
Being very respectful, that ward saving Shanks, who was very much considering flashing after HongQ for the kill, but realizing it would have been just a straight-up trade, opting to instead just take the crash and then get a favorable reset, as it is, again, both junglers just continuing their clear. Nothing too special, just posturing the supports back in front of each other like very aggressive chess pieces that they are ready to throw away for anything.
Vampire cancels the base. Not going to get punished, though, by it, as Kael not able to fully connect that hook shot. Finally, our Camille does hit level 3. Came at a bit of a delayed timer, but it means that Shanks is now going to get a little bit of opportunity to push this wave in himself, get a back, pick up a little bit more gold, and actually result in First Blood not being given over at this stage.
And the reason that Vampire was being so greedy by the looks of it to cancel that base was it meant that HongQ did not miss out on any of the XP and was able to get that extra stack. Shoot. Oh. I think he would have flashed for that if he had got the stun. It was definitely feeling that kind of way. Yeah, we all saw the cannon. Tragedy.
The little zoom from the observers. They know what's up there. As Xiaoxu, unable to find that kill on Debris, has picked up a decent gap in CS, though. But on the bottom side of the map, it is Tarzan picking up the first dragon of the game. See both of our supports once again skirmishing around the Raptor pit. That control ward also valuable. Is Kael able to pick that up? And now, once again, go back to the mid lane here. This is just chaos where you never know. It's like you're watching a horror movie, Melvin. You never know when you're just going to see a Camille or a Shen randomly in your lane.
Yeah, and those are definitely intimidating champions to have just show up with the threat of a flash taunt or flash hook shot, pretty much meaning death for most of the champions in the game. And now, as we look, it is just jumping in, JunJia taking the Raptors. Tarzan did secure the first dragon, though, and it was an Infernal Dragon, and in a game like this, I think they're going to be very, very happy with getting one of those on the board. And with Chemtech being the next one, that means there's a lot of very solid souls on the table if we can get some dragon stacking coming out.
Yeah, we'll see what exactly that lines up with in a few short minutes. But now, Vampire in the mid lane once again. Both of these guys almost like playing to cancel each other out at this point, right? Neither Kael or Vampire are going for plays in their own right, but they're both there to respond to the other. Do like the Shen support pickup in this composition specifically. Obviously, there's the specific counter with Camille where the precision protocols get canceled by the Spirit's refuges, but in general, that W ability going to be very valuable against what AL has to offer, as well as the Stand United try to protect some of that dive. They're going to try to dive this, though, as HongQ once again getting focused down by that hook shot flash. In goes the call to pack here for Tarzan, and the ignite from Kael will pick up First Blood. Tarzan looking for another, gets Vampire just barely in range for that first proc of the ultimate. He survives with less than 25 HP, and anyone's legend are off and running in game 1.
You'd think he was on Zinzao because that was an audacious charge forward under the turret there. I cannot believe instead of walking away, he turns around to kill Vampire. I really thought the flash taunt was going to be enough to secure Tarzan, or at very least force him to walk away. But again, there's a reason we highlighted this Neferi champion in the draft that AL prioritized. It's something that you could do stupid things on. And My god, if this is not exactly why Camille's support is ridiculous, I don't know what. Because pairing it with the Neferi, that is such an incredible 3 screens long engage. Vampire does everything he physically can to save him, and it does nothing.
HongQ was saving his flash, knowing that, hey, I'm going to hit it by the hook shot, but I still have the ability to escape. And then we just go 1-for-1 in summoner spells again. Did not expect that dog to be running right in with the flash ulti as well, just barely able to tag HongQ and take him down, make it a double here for Tarzan to open up this game. It is the Void Grubs taken on the other side by JD Gaming, but overall AL are going to be very happy with that 1,000 gold lead belonging to them.
Yeah, Xiaoxu should be able to make some work done with the Void Grubs, but denying it from Ziggs is one of the biggest things. If the Ziggs get Void Grubs, it's all over from there. You cannot expect towers to stand as JDG just forcing Breathe away from the tower, and again, invading a camp. This is one of the things that Vampire has been enabling his jungler to do, just constantly be walking forward. However, it's level 8 and a 0/0/0 Lee Sin. This is usually a very bad sign. Oh god, I didn't even see Gala's HP.
Speaking, you know who's not 0/0/0? That's Tarzan, who's going for another play, this time in the bottom lane. Nice job by Hope to chunk him down low enough to allow this dive to be easy peasy. And it's 3-0, anyone's legend. A good start from a team that desperately needed a bit of a bounce back here going into split 3.
Honestly, didn't even remember the bot lane was there. Like, they've just not panned the camera down at all. So I hadn't even thought to look at the HP bars. Hope really using this Ziggs to get most of the poke down. Okay, it's not poke. It seems to be just one heavy trade where he did all of the work.
And then he ults there too.
Oh,
nice
no. Yeah. All right, that's enough. That is enough. Wholesome Ziggs champion.
And hey, he's done pretty well for himself. I think in general, Hope has been comfortable with playing on a bit of an island at times on this Anyone's Legend roster. You know, we think of Flandre as generally that more weak side player, but there were times he was getting a lot of attention in the draft, getting some of these funky counter picks. So Hope's been comfortable playing kind of both playstyles. That's why we're excited to maybe see situations where now with Breathe coming into the roster, this roster can now be even more flexible if he's able to play at the level that we have seen of him when he was on Weibo, even parts of last split on Invictus Gaming. It's like right now he's struggling a little bit just in this matchup against the Gnar. Maybe we'll get dove again by JunJia as he's looking for another play.
And that's why I think it comes a lot to the philosophy of how you want to play this current meta game. That's a
Xiaoxu gonna get public execution as JunJia also has a Shen on top of him as well. There goes the taunt, the resonating strike. Xiaoxu getting the kill, and JDG are on the board.
It's not often we get to say just play safe top lane, but just play safe top lane. That was a exertion of resources from JDG as HongQ is in danger.
Yeah, just play safe mid. Yeah, Miasma on top of you. There's the hook shot as well. That's another kill going the way of Anyone's Legend as Kael has made a really good number onto HongQ in this one. It will be just another trade here, top for bottom lane. Gets power potentially taken down by JDG first. Just barely ahead of that satchel charge from Hope. We also have that second dragon taken by Tarzan in the bottom side. It will be a Cloud Rift here in this first game.
A lot of pressure is going on to Xiaoxu to perform this game. If this Gnar is not able to absolutely run over the side lane, it's not looking amazing for JDG right now, because the Jhin, I mean, you know, they're going to be doing utility things, but who are they going to be providing utility for? HongQ, as we saw, also getting bullied in the mid lane by the super divers. And I think by indexing so heavily into the dive with 3 champions that can threaten you from, well, 2 screens away, AL has made it really difficult for JDG to do anything other than all stack together. And then that means Xiaoxu's probably alone in a side lane or is standing in a team fight. And you don't really want either of those things to be happening. So thus far, AL piloting their comp, I'm going to say, significantly better. While Vampire has been doing a good job to mitigate some of that pressure, it's just straight up not been enough to survive Camille plus the Fury.
Yeah, I mean, you slip up one time or you're not in the right position one time if you're Vampire, and all of a sudden HongQ's 0-2 in this game because Kael just continues to put the pressure down. Still making plays alongside Tarzan in this one, but now Vampire can go for one of his own onto Shanks. JunJia, oh, he ward hops over the petrifying gaze. One more auto will do it. It's HongQ ends up getting the kill. But here comes Tarzan, a really nice scatter once again coming through from HongQ, canceling the dash forward with the ultimate. Hope throwing out some bouncing bombs, but I don't think JD Gaming are going to be too unhappy with that as a curtain call. Also coming out to teleport in from Xiaoxu, and all 5 members of Jindong looking to try to even up this game, get a little bit more kills into their pocket. There goes the dash forward from Xiaoxu, lands the boomerang and forces the flash away from Tarzan.
God, it feels good to do a caster curse again. It's been a little while. That was fantastic timing as JDG just perfectly collapsed to punish the play. Shanks just getting caught out on his own. Breathe gets a little bit of plate gold on the other side of the map, but it will not be as much as Xiaoxu is going to get on this bottom lane. Very respectful from JDG to make sure that AL couldn't get away with, honestly, what would have been a super turn right then. If Tarzan's ult is allowed to connect and he gets that first kill, suddenly this is a very different fight.
Oh man, that was a pretty sequence there for JD Gaming. Unfortunately for them, it only results in 1 kill, but JunJia jumping over the ulti. Then you see HongQ canceling Tarzan's ulti. Just really good execution. You talked about how JD Gaming haven't been using their team composition as well. They definitely did it well in that sequence. Now Vampire looking for a little bit of play on to Breathe. Not going to find it. See the Rift Herald going to be spawning in about 30 seconds, to both teams making their way towards the top side.
And the thing I think I love most about the LPL above any other region is when you have a fight and you get important summoners, i.e. JunJia, Tarzan, Shanks Splash. You punish it, and you get something done.
Oh, got HongQ Splash, and that's going to be another kill as well. Ooh, it's been tough to be a Syndra in this game, Melvin. I think it'll continue to be, as you see the dive composition of AL once again punishing him. Goes down for the next 20 seconds. Rift Herald now available. Don't know if JD Gaming can do too much about it, but it looks like AL actually waiting for their full reinforcements to arrive.
Yeah, HongQ definitely could have flashed that better, but Breathe, excellent line to take, quite literally in that case, as the Rift Herald should be enough to swing the game heavily in AL's favor with a Ziggs in pocket. That's at least 2 towers that need to be dying when you use that. And by the looks of it, with a lot of the key cooldowns gone, both teams are actually very reticent to look at the Herald seriously. Maybe that's because the Dragon is up in 30 seconds, and if a fight goes wrong here, you lose both. So AL deciding Dragon stacking will be a way we want to accelerate the game.
Yeah, looks like AL opting not to take that Rift Herald fight. Maybe they feel like they have enough turret damage already in this game, just with the Ziggs helping out maybe alongside some of these other champs. But for AL, just a reset. Yeah, maybe just looking for that Dragon instead. Vision control on the bottom side. Now purely belonging to JD Gaming, and they have a lot of crucial ultimates still available for them to go for this fight.
And we take a look down the board. It's mid-jungle flashes, both unavailable from either side. All of the dive ultimates available for AL. Will they even look to approach, though? It looks like they're just going to say, no, give it, we're a bit too slow. And I think that not being prepared for that Dragon and then not responding with Herald is a bit of a blunder for AL, because part of the reason we have seen Baron kind of just fall to the wayside of importance in the current version of the game is having Mage's bot usually means you're rubbish at Baron. You have a Cassiopeia for AL, so you can take it somewhat quickly, but for JDG, Gnar is your best Baron damage, so you really do need alternate win conditions, whether that be securing the other purple objectives to have better siege, or Dragon stacking to get to the Elder with an advantage. And so leaving an extra 10 minutes on the clock is something that I feel like AL may come to regret.
Yeah, I mean, they feel comfortable in this game right now, but would really probably have preferred to continue to push that pace a little bit, get to that soul point. As you say, Cloud Soul in this game, very valuable for both teams, but I think even more so for anyone's Legend when you have players, champions, I should say, like Breathe on the Ambessa, the Nefiri for Tarzan, Kael's Camille that really want to dive into that backline. Getting that extra cooldown or an extra movement speed on the ultimate abilities is going to be very, very important as we continue to progress.
And also on top of that, when we look at the kind of damage profile in the game, one of the biggest problems that people have with the Jhin champion is they often suck when teams have any tanks. There's no tanks on AL, so this is going to be an explosive fight. Keep an eye on them.
Yeah, the Herald going to get secured here by JunJia already, but Breathe comes in with a TP, maybe looking for a fight. AL just a bit late to the play again, but it does generate some priority in the mid lane. Maybe they can try to take down this tier 1. Gala opens up the curtain call. Kael already chunked down to health, half HP. Shouldn't be able to get too much more. Nice job by JD Gaming to reset towards the mid lane as well with that help from the Jhin ultimate, making sure that nobody was able to even take off the crystalline bracers of this mid tier 1.
A colossal win for JDG because they also got 2 teleports out of AL. That gives you the agency on the map and means now with the Shen, you can force a play on top side before the next dragon, or bot side if you want to then threaten Baron, and then rotate 2 people straight over. Whereas, like, I mean, the Ziggs TP is up soon, but I don't know if it's going to be a meaningful difference when we take a look at the Baron on the table. Let's see if Kael goes for another force on Gala. These traps are, you know, they're helpful against champions that don't fly at you from a screen away, but we'll have to see if it actually keeps him safe in this current situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing that's happened to Gala so far is he's had a Syndra on his team as well, and she has taken the brunt of the dive in the early game from anyone's legend. Looks like Hope gonna get even some more chip damage on this tower, not in that satchel range just yet. Mid-prio continuing to be important as we await that 3rd dragon for AL, potentially 2nd for JD Gaming, spawning in less than 2 minutes. Take a look at where the compositions currently lie right now, though, Melvin. Xiaoxu actually having a big advantage in the top lane, in that gold over Breathe, this new addition for anyone's legend. That could be big once we get towards some of these mid-game skirmishes.
And he may not have had the counter pick, but it certainly feels like he had the counter pick with how the game has been going. JDG sending a lot of the early resources up to that top lane to keep him in the game, and playing respectfully here to not walk up to a tower without knowing where the Kael is. And that's the thing, when there's so much mobility from the AL divers, it does make you really hesitant to ever walk up and secure that crystalline overgrowth. You don't want to overstep and end up in a position where, oh god, I've just died, I've just had to blow a big summoner, dragon's up in a minute, we're not going to be able to posture around it. Securing this bot tower is going to be big, it's going to give Xiaoxu a lot more area to play around, and lets JDG secure some safety for themselves to play around the dragon.
Yeah, a bit of a breakout from Xiaoxu last split even, though it is his third split on JD Gaming. I think the best one that we'd seen from him after being on some of these lower tier teams for a number of years, really turning into a player that was able to generate leads on his own, team fight well, and so far having a good time against Breed, much like he did for a majority of his time in Split 2 back when he was on Invictus Gaming. Talked about some of those, you know, funny counter picks that he was able to whip out against him in the playoffs, or during some of those, or not the playoffs, I guess, but during some of those games at the end of the regular season, things like that Tristana. It's been a fun player to watch grow as a part 100%. Of this team. Him and Vampire, those young pieces here on JD.
Really feels like it's added some life to the team and just fed back into the ingenuity and the creativity that we expect from the JDG team as a whole. Now with the dragon up, we take a little summoner review. Basically everything combat summoner wise is available, but it looks like JDG just aren't even going to walk up. They say, alright, we bought 5 minutes, that's the best we needed.
Yeah, so they're going to be able to pick up Soul Point. Maybe JDG looking for a bit of a response. The Kael taking a hook shot over the wall. They pop the Herald, but maybe a little bit too late as the HongQ is getting targeted. Goes golden to try to deny himself from that Mega Inferno Bomb and ends up burning the flash to survive. A little bit dicey there for HongQ, but will end up living.
Hold on, Xiaoxu is a bit far up in the bottom lane. I think he's left just safe enough timing-wise to rotate out of here. A Syndra without Flash, a Syndra without Seekers. I mean, that's target number 1, surely. Like, Gala, you have Exhaust. Like, that's giving you, like, 5% of survivability against some of these divers. Enough that you don't want to do it. Ooh, I love this.
Ooh, an early Stand United on Vampire. Looking for this Ambessa here as Breathe already has popped that public execution. Xiaoxu approaching Mega, not able to find anything, so it is just that Shan ultimate used for not a whole lot, honestly. It's a big cooldown that potentially AL can take advantage of their opponents not having.
Now, the real question is, how do you leverage that? The number 1 way would be to start Baron and then force Xiaoxu to have to TP out here, but TPing to defend the tower from Breathe, I don't think I'm the biggest fan of it, because now threatening that Baron is realistically completely off the table, because you know for a fact that the Gnar can TP over there with advantage and then equalize the numbers. So I think it's just another one of those weird moments where we're in a slow, I'm going to call it a lull state. We've got 7 kills at 23 minutes. This is, you know, not that high on the grand scheme of things for LPL. And I'm expecting it all to blow open in front of some objective, but thus far both of these teams have been a bit scared to pull the trigger.
When you look at what these compositions like to do and how they function at this portion of the game, AL actually have a lot more wave clear than JD Gaming have, right? You have Shanks, who's able to throw down that miasma issue at the Twin Fangs, Hope on the Ziggs just naturally as that champion able to do that. Syndra and Jin maybe not as much so, right? And so I think we saw that really nicely when AL was able to push mid and actually even ignore the Rift Herald from JD Gaming to get that 3rd dragon. That's going to be another really big opportunity for them to try to claim that soul if they're able to utilize their pieces in that right way. And I think JD Gaming are going to have to instead look for more scrappy plays before those objectives spawn, like we're seeing here. Public Execution does not connect here for Breathe, and JunJia's already down to half HP, but he gets taunted up by Vampire, and they're going to be able to shut him down. And it's going to be another stun landing with the Scout of the Week on to the Nefiri. Tarzan at the flash away, but the crit will take him down. It's a double kill in for Gala, and JDG find the scrap they're looking for and have a 3v5 in the next 35 seconds.
That should be enough to at least threaten the Baron, but with the Ziggs blowing up the mid lane tower, you have double mages, and the MR shred from Baron is no joke. There's a real world where AL can dissuade this.
Kael still has his ultimatum, uses it onto Vampire, try to burst down the JDG support, but the Baron's already at 5k, no ability to smite it away. Shanks still hunting, looking maybe for a 3v5 outplay, but he's not going to find it. The Scout of the Week connects from HongQ, and that all but secures the big purple worm here for JD Gaming. They were on the back foot for the last couple of minutes, but finally they have found their fight.
Really nicely done, and let's look at what on earth this started off, just support or combat at the very beginning, and JDG just pulled in the numbers faster, simply put. I thought that this was going to be an easy Mega Gnar, but it times out while he's flying through the air. Doesn't matter though, Breathe doesn't have the tools to escape. Even if he flashes that wall, he's getting followed by 2 people. That's the same result. That shouldn't have happened. Tarzan shouldn't be getting hit by those.
Yeah, a little bit of Riot Games action happening there. Look, all good though. If you're JD Gaming, happy if you're HongQ. Honestly, HongQ, he deserves that after getting punished so much in that early game by Kael. A little bit of a get back against that jungler who ended up taking him down for first blood. Now JD Gaming have that Baron power play for the next 2 minutes. They're going to be pushing here in the mid and the bottom lane. Xiaoxu once again just continuing to assert his dominance down there. Now a 2,500 gold lead over Breathe. And you remember that teleport that he used down in the bottom lane here? Xiaoxu was able to use his to actually join the fight that got them that Baron.
And now we have a series of play where AL is looking to try and scare JDG off of the mid wave. It's the thing, Ziggs, even through Baron buff, is doing a pretty decent job of clearing the wave, which makes it so hard for JDG to go to the side lanes because of how far away AL can engage from. It's just a lot of threat that is super intimidating, because if you're not a 5-stack, you could just blow up immediately. And now it will result in JDG getting the dragon. No Ziggs bomb to steal. Nice attempt though. And what's really going to come from this Baron? 1 dragon and a bot lane tier 2 tower? It's like something, but nothing substantial.
Have to just look for more plays, more fights like the one that opened up this game for them. Led by players like Vampire and JunJia hunting together as one. Tarzan jumps away from that Scout of the Week as the mid lane tier 1 turret still available for JD Gaming to take. They're not going to be able to find it as they take some resets, with the Baron buff only being available for 40 more seconds. Scout of the Week landing here onto Kael. They might be able to one-shot him. Unleash power not actually used by HongQ. That should have guaranteed the kill. Instead, they were hoping that the curtain call from Gala would have finished it off, but it only hits onto Shanks, who did a nice job blocking.
Should at least give them some time on this tower, though. It might be enough to kill. It looks like AL's not going to put up a strong defense to hold it, so it doesn't result in a kill, but does result in getting that tier 1 tower down. So important. against these control mages to kill the first tier tower mid just opens up the map and means that Ziggs can't be as big of a nuisance.
The big thing here with this Baron buff and with that last fight is that now Gala really is online. He was behind about 1,000 gold, and you're seeing him continue to rack up the stacks, finding the kill on the Shanks underneath the mid lane tier 2 turret. This Jin with that Infinity Edge fully online now in this first game, and JD Gaming continuing to stack their lead, a big swing in the gold, now up almost 4,000.
I hope we get a replay of how that happened. I'm curious if it was Shanks overstepping or a bait coming out.
Another scatter, another taunt. Oh my goodness, JD Gaming finding angles every which way. JunJia flashes forward, forces the hourglass from Hope, but he's only going to be delaying the inevitable demise of his champion in the mid lane. Another kill, another scatter. Oh, HongQ is on fire in this one. A double kill for Gala. Make it a triple. Breathe taunted underneath the tower for the full-on ace for JD Gaming. What a swing here in this game number 1 as JD Gaming turn one single pick into a massive lead for themselves.
And it's just a single scatter. I see. Oh, he flashes forward. I thought he flashed away. Oh, Gala, that is beautiful timing to match Shanks. And it looks like it should be enough to secure the game.
I know, we get the replay. The game might have already ended by the time we go back to live. Shanks goes down again. Kael in with the ultimatum, but he barely is able to dodge away from that force shot. HongQ is very low, and we have Hope coming back up in 5 seconds. Don't think it's going to matter, though. That second Nexus Tower is already going down. It'll be 1 kill. It'll be 2 for Hope, but the third won't come before the Nexus drops. It's JD Gaming opening up split 3 with a win.
That was a bit stressful at the end there, but at the end of the day, JD do walk away with it. Wow, that really did just explode out of nowhere, and it was off the back of several incredible scatters, followed by those deadly flourishes. Gala making some merit behind the Jin as something that can survive against the mages, and when you don't index into a tank at all, still get pretty good work done. I'm very impressed of how he actually managed to do so much on the Jin once that 3-item point was established.
Man, the just decisiveness and ability for JD Gaming to just find these picks. It was AL who was doing that so well in the first 10-15 minutes of that game with the help of Tarzan on the Nefiri, with Kael on the Camille. But then in those last 2 sequences, it was HongQ on the Syndra finding those Scatter the Weeks. It was Gala following up immediately with a deadly flourish, a force shot, anything that he had available for them. And those 2 big carries for JD Gaming were able to deliver them that win from basically what was an even game state just about 5 minutes prior.
Importantly, though, we couldn't have got there if JunJia and Vampire hadn't snowballed Xiaoxu ahead. If this Gnar is not just beating Ambessa down in the side lane, suddenly it gets a bit scarier, because that's 1 extra diver who can really push past those breakpoints and give AL the confidence to force some of these plays. But the Gnar just getting ahead early made it so difficult for Breathe to breathe in this game. He didn't actually get to dive in unless it was with the whole team, and even then, it didn't result in a lot. He was kind of just a spectator for a good amount of it. If the team was diving, the team was diving, but outside of that, the Ambessa really didn't have as much impact as we would have liked for a champion who, you know, is meant to be 2024 level design. Like, we've got to be going in and we've got to be blowing up everybody.
Bit underwhelming from Breathe to open up his debut with anyone's legend. I saw that gold graph just completely spike in that last few minutes, and it seemed like, Melvin, anyone's legend was almost out scot-free from that Baron power play. It was about to expire, but then it was just pick after pick after pick. Those are mistakes that cannot happen, especially at that stage in the game, just too late into that power play. It seemed like anyone's legend saw that the 3-minute timer was coming up and kind of just let their guard down at absolutely the wrong time.
Yeah, these mage comps are very fragile, because if they go down, or if you misstep even slightly, you're gone. You don't get a second chance a lot of the time. There's not that super reposition ability, or the ability to dodge CC like Tarzan really should have done in that clip on there. I think if he doesn't die in that moment, it's not remotely as out of AL's hands from that point. But again, just not respecting the range advantage. When you have Hope you generally should be winning the range war, but you can't be walking up as 2 people to hold a mid lane tower when the entirety of JDG is representing off map.
And I know we're going to get to that player of the game in a little bit. You could throw it a lot of different ways. I'd be shocked. I'd have to give the vote to HongQ here. I know he had a really tough early game. I think a lot of it not his fault, but those back-to-back-to-back scatter the weeks single-handedly won them that game.
I could see it going Gala for similar reasons, but I do agree that it's those initial disengages, including in the early play that did end up going JDG's favor. It was HongQ hitting that scatter to stop Tarzan going in and getting reset city. So I think that would be plenty deserved. I could even see Xiaoxu getting it, honestly. This is one of those games where it was everybody pulled their part for JDG. It was a tough early game, but they endured. They managed to find those isolated picks and just play better on the map than AL. So I'm not going to be surprised anywhere it goes, except for maybe JunJia, I guess. That would probably be one where I'm like, fine, I guess, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Xiaoxu did get a big lead. I don't know how much he ended up doing with it other than just, taking a couple of towers. Those big team fights definitely belong to the main carries, but he is going to get that player of the game. Hey, the stats look good, but it seems like one of those big number player of the games, in my opinion.
Definitely big number one. I still think that by putting the Ambessa so far out of the game, it mitigated a lot of the pressure onto HongQ and Gala and let them get that scaling, because AL showed a real tendency in those first 10 to 15 minutes to throw all the tools forward and go in. But they kind of just stopped doing that after a point, and I think that's because they wanted one other person in the fight with them to get through the Shen shielding, the extra just peel tools from the Syndra, make somebody force it and everybody else. And it looks like it was generally a pretty decisive vote from, all the humans that voted.
It's a big can of worms that we could dive into, but instead we're just going to congratulate JD Gaming on taking that Game 1 win over anyone's legend. Going to take a short break before we head into Game 2, but before we do that, we want to give you all a big shout out that are watching here on LPL English. If you'd like to continue to support us here on this channel, you can consider to become a Coffee member. It is the best way to support the LPL English project, with the vast majority of your contributions going directly into the show. Bit of a potentially teaser for what we're going to see later on today. A lot of the initial payments for Coffee go into upgrading the broadcast, but a huge bulk of it also pays on our talent and us content creators, so you can subscribe to that Coffee. It is linked in the chat right now to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions for our unique on-site interviews. World's coming to NA soon. I know a lot of us are based over there. We'll see how that ends up going through. Game number 1, a JDG win. We'll see if AL can bounce back after this short break.